It's Messi! It is the cleanest of clean finishes from the best on the planet.
It's time for the biggest sports stories.
Liverpool, the champions of Europe, are top of the world.
The biggest interviews.
That such a great spectacle is ruined by such thuggish behavior.
And all the analysis right here.
He's the one player that has the arrogance to think that he can play in any stadium in the world and any pitch in the world in front of any player in the world and take them on.
Every weekday, it's my sport, it's your sport. It's ZiFM Sport. Let's join the team for the biggest show in the world of sport on ZiFM Stereo. My station, your station.
Good evening, Zimbabwe, and welcome to Zimbabwe's top sports show, brought to you by the top sports team in the land. That team, Alois Bunjira, former Warriors, former Caps United, former Mamelodi Sundowns, former Bitvest Vits, or whatever they call them now. He's here on the show as our crack football pundit. He's joined by Barry Manandi, Chris Gray, Sean Tafirinyika, and yours truly, Mike Madoda. Another great show that we got lined up for you, full of top stories and, of course, top music during our musical interludes, our power play to kick off the show, as well as our play of the day a bit later on. But before that, on the home front, the Premier Soccer League is now pushing for a September start for the 2020 season amidst the coronavirus pandemic, after top flight clubs were promised financial aid by the Zimbabwe Football Association, ZIFA. In international sports news, we have our staple, the Formula One report, which is proudly brought to you by Zimoco, where Lewis Hamilton believes he got everything and more out of his Mercedes W11 this weekend on his way to winning the Styrian Grand Prix in dominant fashion in Austria.
In Around the World in 60, we start in Manchester, where England are set to keep faith with Joss Butler, despite defeat to West Indies in the first test of a 3-match series. But time may be up for Joe Denley. In news from New York, the PGA Tour will conduct the rest of its season without fans after the circuit's 3 playoff events announced that they will be contested without spectators due to the COVID-19 outbreak. And we end up in Florida, where the NBA said 2 players have tested positive for coronavirus since teams began arriving in Orlando for the resumption of the league later this month.
In the second half of the show, we bring you the beautiful game starting in the Premier League, where Ole Gunnar Solskjaer admitted Manchester United didn't deserve to win after Southampton grabbed a last-minute equaliser to draw 2-2 at Old Trafford. In the Liga, Zinedine Zidane has described Eden Hazard's predicament at Real Madrid as complicated after leaving the Belgian international as an unused substitute during last night's 2-1 win at Granada. In Serie A, Inter head coach Antonio Conte said he will not hesitate to leave if the club are unhappy, although the Italian remains committed to the Nerazzurri project amid question marks over his future. And football pundit Gary Neville has taken aim at financial fair play and UEFA after Manchester City's Champions League ban was overturned on Monday, saying FFP needed this slap around the face.
The Home Front. Local sports news and analysis. From Rufaro to Barberfield, Mandava to Nyamunga, all the perfect moments in the Castle Lager Premier Soccer League come together on ZiFM Sport.
Don't forget you can follow and interact with us on social media at ZiFM Sport on Twitter and Facebook. And now the news on the home front is that the Premier Soccer League is now pushing for a September start for the 2020 season amidst the coronavirus pandemic, after top flight clubs were promised financial aid by the Zimbabwe Football Association, ZIFA. Initially, the 2020 campaign should have commenced in March, but had to be postponed after the government imposed an indefinite nationwide lockdown to curb the spread of the virus. There were fears this year's campaign would have to be cancelled altogether as the cases continue to increase. Now, Chris, the facts on the ground and the figures that we've been getting out of government point to an increase in the coronavirus infections in Zimbabwe. That's something, again, that will need to be considered when they decide in the manner in which football is going to return in Zimbabwe. Do we return with football as we know it, with paying fans who sit in the grandstands and watch the game? Or do we go the European route where the stadiums will be empty and the action will only be on the field of play.
It's really unfortunate that we're seeing this increase in our cases after a stringent lockdown. And now we're seeing the increase at a time when we were seeing sort of some movement in our football where decisions were being made to say, okay, we might possibly have a restart in September. And what's unfortunate about this is two things. First of all, our football is not televised. So if we are to have a restart without the fans in the stadium, there's going to be issues around, first of all, money, and secondly, around accountability and the fact that who is going to be viewing this football. The second issue is that financially, the clubs don't necessarily, well, most clubs don't necessarily have enough money to go through a football season. In as much as they'll be getting the stimulus package, it may not be enough to carry them through an entire season, including travel. If you look at what it costs and how they're now going to have to place players and medical staff in terms of, say, for example, hotel accommodation, it's going to be costing them a lot more. So it's not an ideal scenario, but football needs to restart in some way, shape or form. It's great that ZiFM has finally allocated these funds and we can start to see some movement, hopefully, but it's definitely not an ideal situation. But it's also an opportunity for some of our administrators to actually take a look at the way our football is structured at the moment. How do we get our football onto TV screens or online, whatever the case may be? How do we get a system where we're making money from more than just the gate takings, which is what we've been reliant on for several years?
Well, ZiFM also need to be taking a bit of guidance from the mother bodies, Barry, namely CAF and FIFA. And the news is that the Confederation of African Football, they have drafted guidelines which must be followed for leagues on the continent to resume. And I know you are well aware of these guidelines, the protocol that's been sent through to ZiFM, and which will act as a guide to the Council Premier Soccer League. Are we able to tick the boxes, Barry, the boxes that they've said for us to tick?
Many of the boxes I don't think we're able to tick, Mike. In truth, there are a lot of measures that were stated in the protocol, but I think the most important and salient feature of it was that each league needed to compile a protocol of its own, which is unique to its particular set of circumstances. That's why you've got the leagues in the likes of Tanzania, Uganda have brought football back in their own way. Zambia is about to come back. South Africa has decided to set up a bubble, a biosecure bubble, and they can do that. So it gives you the latitude to set out a protocol of your own and a way in which football can return safely for your own set of circumstances, because Corona is reacting and responding differently in the various countries. So consequently, I would say that we need to see what the ZiFM plan is. Not necessarily that, CAF has sent us a protocol, but what is our plan as football?
Okay, can I ask you this, Barry? Do you think that we can afford the return of football from two levels? First of all, the testing that's required. So there are certain issues of compliance that come at cost that have to be taken care of. Can we afford that in light of the fact that when I take a look at the figures that ZiFM has been throwing around in terms of the relief package to our Premier Soccer League, you're taking a look at an amount that's just slightly over $5,000. And then secondly, if you take a look at some of the guidelines that have come out of CAF, for example, the one around traveling teams, they are now required to book their squad and officials in separate rooms with no sharing allowed. Okay? We've heard South Africa is going to try and create some sort of bubble in Gauteng. Okay? And there's enough money perhaps flying around in South Africa, some of the partnerships that they have, the corporate partnerships their clubs have with the hospitality industry for them to afford that. Can Zimbabwean teams afford this, Barry, that a team, for example, like Highlanders traveling to Mutare will have to book a facility where each individual is staying in his own room and the costs associated with such a move?
No, we are, the easy answer is no, we're not able to afford it. And I think this is where we're seeing that the structure of our football is horribly flawed, and it's been exposed as a result of the coronavirus pandemic. And so our teams are not well funded, number one. Number two, our football, in terms of the pyramid, is very segregated. So we're now talking about the top of the pyramid, which is the Premier Soccer League. take note that South Africa is dealing with the Premier League and also the National First Division all in one. Presently, we've got a segregated approach whereby Division 1 football clubs are not even being spoken about, and I don't think that Division 1 football in truth is going to come back. The Premier League is the one that we're discussing on the basis that that's our top tier. So it's exposed that first and foremost, and then secondly, the financial requirements are too dear for our football clubs. They can't afford this. So we can't afford to bring football back in truth.
Okay, send us your thoughts, your views on that Twitter handle that I did give you at ZiFM Sport, or even on Facebook. Just search for Alois Bunjira, Christine Midzi, Shunta Firinyika, Barry Manandi, myself, Mike Madoda, and we'll be happy to engage with you on some of the ideas that can be followed, or some of the ideas that should be implemented in trying to bring the game back in Zimbabwe. Now, Alois, there is news that there is some sort of indaba that's going to be held for the first time outside of Congress. The Premier Soccer League governors and the ZiFA executive are set to meet this weekend to discuss the state of football in the country. They're saying that all the 18 club chairpersons have been invited to the indaba, which will touch on a number of football issues. First of all, do you have faith in such a move? And if you do, how important is this consultation process, this consultative process? And is it wide enough for you to actually bring about the ideas that are needed for the game to move forward?
Mike, I heard about the Indaba, and like you're saying, like the composition of the people that are going to be going there, they are the same people that have been running football. It's the same thing. So they're going to just tell each other what they've been doing all along. So it's not for me, the composition, and I don't have trust in whatever they are doing. Remember, we had a great Indaba in Victoria Falls a few months ago, where dignitaries from Europe and from Asia, they were invited, and there was a big talk about the issue. But where are we now? Where did we go? Not even one thing was implemented from the Victoria Falls Indaba. But
is your problem, Alois, is your problem the fact that we meet so many times to talk, but we're very weak when it comes to implementation?
That's the problem. We talk and talk, news written on the papers, we do this. This is not the first time this indabas have happened. We have had a lot of them, including the CSRC, the Ministry of Sport, everything, it has been done. But after the indaba, they just go back to their old ways. They go back to their offices, and they still do exactly what they've been doing all along. So you would rather think that it's just a waste of money. I hope that probably one day that they're going to implement something. But my one is the people that are going for this indaba are the very same people with the same ideas. We can't keep on doing the very same thing every time, now and again, and expect change. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. You know where these guys are going to get the new ideas that they will take to the indaba, because we have seen them doing the same things over and over again over the years.
Yeah, so it's a very, very thorny issue, this one. And I think what Zimbabwe football is crying out is implementation of ideas that come up during these indabas. We have them ever so often now and again. I think the last one that Alois was talking about was the one that was done at the behest of the Council of the Premier Soccer League in Victoria Falls. We are yet to see the fruit of those discussions. And of course, we are hoping that something will come out of this indaba, which is set to be held this coming weekend. And one of the thorny issues that they're going to have to settle is the fact that the clubs are saying that that $5,000 that ZiFA has promised to the clubs is too little.
Hi, I'm Clemens Matau, chicken in midfielder. You're listening to ZiFM Sport.
Let's get into our local sports news roundup, starting with athletics, where the National Athletics Association of Zimbabwe, the NAAZ, expects to hold its first event in the last Saturday of September since sporting activities were suspended because of the coronavirus outbreak. White City Stadium in Bulawayo will host the Interprovincial Championships, where athletes will only compete in track events as field competitions are still under lockdown. Athletics is deemed low risk due to its low contact nature and is among sports that have been given the green light to resume activities by the Sports and Recreation Commission, the SRC. On to regional games, the African Union Sports Council Region 5, in collaboration with the Association for International Sports for All, this week starts an online certified leadership course in sport for all. This is the first time Region 5 are conducting an online course as part of the organization's response to the devastating effects of the deadly coronavirus pandemic. The course is starting tomorrow and is scheduled to run up to the 11th of September. 30 participants drawn from 8 of the 10 Region 5 member countries have been enrolled in the course. Wrapping it up with football news, where Zimbabwe under-20 national women's FIFA World Cup qualifier against Ethiopia in September hangs in the balance. ZiFM say they have to first secure the green light from the government before they can proceed with the tie. CAF last week announced that FIFA under-20 Women's World Cup qualifiers were resuming in 2 months' time, with the first round of the two-legged clash between Zimbabwe and Ethiopia slated between the 3rd and 12th of September. The winner will progress to the second round, which has been slated for October, while the last qualifying round will be played in November.
Hi, this is Mike Madoda, and you can catch me and the team for all the latest breaking news out of the world of sport, local as well as international, on your favorite station, my station, your station, ZiFM. We are Z-Team on ZiFM Sport.
Z. International Sports News Roundup, where the world comes out to play. From sunny Melbourne to the streets of Monaco, the deserts of Bahrain to the jungles of Brazil, get up to speed on the Formula One Report. The Formula One Report is proudly brought to you by Zimoco, the home of F1 brands Mercedes-Benz and Alfa Romeo in Zimbabwe. Zimoco, specialized service for special brands.
Now, before we get to the Formula One news proper, we just want to give you an update out of Zimoco. And this week we're talking about the Body Repair Center on Douglas Road in Southerton. Our Body Repair Center is well known and respected for the world-class accident damage repairs on specialized brands such as Mercedes-Benz, Jeep, Fiat, Mitsubishi, and Haval, where our work is carried out to the highest standard using genuine replacement parts and body panels, as well as computerized color matching systems. However, we would also like to advise our customers that we are open to all vehicle brands and models: Hondas, Toyotas, BMWs, Audis, Nissans, Isuzus, etc. You name it, Zimoco is there to fix your car regardless of the brand. And Barry, I am a disciple.
You certainly are. I understand you took your car across to the Body Repair Center. How was that?
Absolutely fantastic service, Barry. Had it back within 24 hours, and they just didn't fix it. They also gave it a nice polish, a nice shine, and cleaned it as well. So the service was fantastic. Dropping it off, the way they received it, checking it in. The process is very, very quick, and the guys are very friendly, very helpful, and they even offered, of course, the option of a ride back home.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Oh, wow.
And thanks to the team at Zimoco, especially for the wash, because Mike hadn't washed his car for the entire period of the lockdown. Finally got a wash. And it's not just the service that has a quick turnaround, also quotations get a fantastic turnaround. Now, the turnaround time for straightforward repairs is instant, and the quotation time on huge complex repairs takes about 24 hours. And our parts procurement for these vehicles is excellent. We have a dedicated, qualified, skilled and highly experienced team of technicians who will get your vehicle back to pre-accident condition in no time, as you heard from Mike Madoda. We also offer rubberizing of pickup load trays for all makes and models of pickups, and our pricing is very competitive.
Now, don't forget, we also work closely with insurance companies. So in the event of an accident for whichever vehicle brand, make or model you drive, please make sure you ask for a repair quotation from Zimoco for your vehicle. We also have a 24-hour recovery vehicle, which can collect your vehicle from anywhere in Zimbabwe if you break down or are involved in an accident. For more information on our Body Repair Center and our recovery vehicle, please visit our website. That's zimoco.co.zw. That's zimoco.co.zw, or call us today on Harare number 754303. That's Harare number 754303 for a quotation. Stay tuned for more.
Z.
On to our Formula One report proper, where Lewis Hamilton believes he got everything and more out of his Mercedes W11 this weekend on his way to winning the Styrian Grand Prix in Austria in dominant fashion. Hamilton started the second race held at the Red Bull Ring in as many weeks from pole and scored a commanding victory, having initially pulled away from Red Bull's Max Verstappen before his teammate Valtteri Bottas moved up to second in the final laps. His imperious performance this weekend, which included a dominant display in a wet qualifying, contrasted dramatically with last weekend's Austrian Grand Prix when he started fifth after getting a grid penalty. Let's hear from Lewis Hamilton.
With great difficulty. But when there's a will, there's a way. I think the last weekend definitely was psychologically challenging to have the penalties and then to be called in the stewards on the Sunday morning and just before the race and get another penalty and another one in the race. So it's that was definitely not. It's never easy, but there's nothing you can do about the past. All you can do is focus and channel your energy to the future. So I just made sure I stayed here. Trained well, ate well, slept well, and worked hard with Bono and the guys to understand where last weekend went wrong and corrected it this weekend. So this is a track that I don't know why there are tracks that some drivers are stronger than others, but this is one of my weak circuits. So to get a performance like this today, I'm over the moon. I'm so happy. But I do also know that there's a long way to go.
Now, Chris, it's hard to argue with the man. He got everything and more correct, are his exact words, and in truth, he absolutely did. And the circuit at the Red Bull Ring has basically shown us that if you get enough of a lead there, you should be able to hold off and win the race.
Definitely, and he managed to build up that lead quite significantly throughout the race, and I think that's the great thing about this particular track, and we saw it the first weekend as well, was that once you manage to get that lead, if you manage to maintain it, you can win that race, and he did that superbly throughout the race. Also, just taking a look at the fact that Mercedes managed to fix the issues that they had been having with the vehicles in the previous week with the gearbox. They got those repeated warnings for the drivers to actually be careful. They managed to sort that out, and I think that's also what stood him in good stead to make sure that he managed to get that lead and also to keep it.
Now, Red Bull themselves they'll be looking at some corrections that they can make, because in truth, Max Verstappen was let down more so by the vehicle and also his choice of tires, and less so with his driving ability to get that second spot. And Valtteri Bottas taking advantage of that in those final laps. We saw Max trying to hold him off, but the car just wouldn't click into gear.
Yeah, absolutely, Barry. And that is one certainly that the pit will have to take responsibility for. Max Verstappen's effort as a driver over the weekend cannot be faulted. He was second on the grid, and I thought he drove very well under the circumstances, and he deserved, I think, to finish perhaps second, but the car let him down, and then Valtteri Bottas had him there for the taking. So Red Bull, their concerns, I think, will be trying to make sure that they get some sort of marginal improvement ahead of the next race in Hungary to see if they can just put a bit of pressure on Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas, who are beginning to walk it, even though we are 2 races into the season. But for Ferrari, it was a total disaster.
Yes, I wanted to touch on Ferrari, and Ferrari, Shucks, very briefly, Chris, Shucks, they've got some thinking to do, and the drivers need to also get their heads into gear as soon as possible.
Definitely. I think some of the areas that were made there, especially with his teammate, I think that's where the issues, some of them are. Ferrari needs to get their drivers, get their heads in gear. And look, you can say that some of it is youth, some of it is general mistakes that they were making, but they need to get everything into place now.
And to those who didn't watch the race, the 2 Ferraris colliding almost at the second corner and were both retired out of the race before completing a lap at the Red Bull Ring. Not good enough from the Ferrari drivers. Like Mike said, we're off to Hungary next. Hungarian Grand Prix is on Sunday.
Now, the good news continues to flow out of Zimoko, and would like to remind our Jeep fans that we have special offers on our Jeep range of vehicles in stock in our showroom. The new sophisticated luxury Jeep Grand Cherokee Overland 3-liter diesel is on special offer at just $120,000 The all-new powerful Jeep Grand Cherokee SRT8 is on special offer at $128,000, and the adventurous compact Jeep Compass Trailhawk 2.4-liter petrol is on special offer at $59,900. All prices are inclusive of duty and VAT or VAT, and include full manufacturer's warranty and a first free service at 10,000 kilometers. These special offer prices are while stocks last. For more information, please email us on sales@zimoko.co.zw or visit our showroom at Sam Levy's Village in Borrowdale.
We'd like to remind our customers that our Borrowdale showroom in Sam Levy's Village, our Borrowdale Service Centre, our Douglas Road Southerton workshops are all open from 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Monday to Friday, and we're open following the Ministry of Health and World Health Organization's guidelines on social distancing. Please note, all customers visiting our premises will have a mandatory temperature check, must wear a mask, and must sanitize their hands and keep a distance of 2 meters between each other, as well as Zimoko employees. That, of course, in line with the World Health Organization protocol on COVID-19. Your Formula One report today, proudly brought to you by Zimoko.
The Formula One report is proudly brought to you by Zimoko, the home of F1 brands Mercedes-Benz and Alfa Romeo in Zimbabwe. Zimoko, specialized service for special brands.
Hi, my name is Sean Williams, Zimbabwe cricket captain. You're listening to ZiFM Sport.
Z. Around the world in 60 seconds. International sports news.
Around the World in 60 is proudly brought to you by DSTV. We take off in Manchester, where England are set to keep faith with Jos Buttler despite the defeat to the West Indies in the first test of a 3-match series. But time may be up for Joe Denley. Captain Joe Root is set to return for the second test starting on Thursday at Old Trafford after missing the 4-wicket defeat in Southampton to attend the birth of his second child. The England selectors have big decisions to make again after losing the game with the bat rather than the ball, despite the controversial omission of Stuart Broad. An under par 204 in the first innings and the loss of 5 wickets for 30 runs on the fourth evening set the platform for the tourists to take first blood. We head over to New York, where the PGA Tour will conduct the rest of its season without fans after the circuit's 3 playoff events announced that they will be contested without spectators due to the COVID-19 outbreak. In 3 separate statements, the Northern Trust in Northern Massachusetts, BMW Championships in Olympia Fields, Illinois, and Tour Championship in Atlanta, Georgia, all confirmed the event will be closed to the general public. The decisions by the 3 tournaments which determine the season's champion follow similar announcements from the other remaining PGA Tour events on the circuit's revamped schedule. We touched down in Florida, where the NBA said 2 players have tested positive for coronavirus since teams began arriving in Orlando for the resumption of the league later this month. An NBA statement said out of 322 players tested at the NBA campus at Disney World since July the 7th, 2 returned positive tests. However, the league said neither player had cleared quarantine, which would have allowed them to fully enter the NBA's protective bubble. Both players have since left the Disney World campus to isolate at home or at isolation housing.
Hi, I'm Warriors coach Zdravko Logarušić, and you are listening to ZiFM Sport.
Sports with a difference. Z. The big leagues, the big teams, the big players. The beautiful game on ZiFM Sport. All the rivalry.
Here is Harry Kane for Tottenham. Oh, what a goal! A classic derby goal from Harry Kane. Catch him if you can.
All the stars.
Oh, back here's Liverpool 2 in front. Talk about impudence. Talk about improvisation. Talk about Sadio Mane.
And all the game-changing moments.
And Raheem Sterling rattles it home. And once more, City are in front in a trice.
All the updates from the Premier League on ZiFM Sport.
A beautiful game starts in England, the home of football, they call it. And to be specific, the Premier League, where Ole Gunnar Solskjaer admitted Manchester United didn't deserve to win after Southampton grabbed a last-minute equaliser to draw 2-2 at Old Trafford. United missed the chance to move to third in the Premier League as the result left them in fifth place with 1 point separating themselves, Chelsea and Leicester in the race for 2 positions in next season's Champions League. The visitors' battling spirit was seen in abundance as Michael Obafemi stooped to earn a share of the points in the 96th minute, with United down to 10 men following a late head injury to Brandon Williams. Solskjaer was disappointed to concede a last-minute equaliser, but felt his Manchester United side didn't do enough to deserve all 3 points.
That's it's the worst time to concede a goal, but then that happens in football. You've just got to be strong and take it, because we've won so many games that way ourselves, and it's all part of the learning for this team to be sat there really disappointed after you think you've got the 3 points in the bag, but probably we didn't deserve 3 points today. Not because Southampton are a good team and they deserved to get something from the game. They played well. They're a physical, very, very fit side. They run, they chase. So we never got the rhythm in our passing today, especially after we got 2-1. You can play better, but we create some chances, some fantastic football at times. You know, Anthony has got two massive chances that he creates for himself, and the 2 goals are very, very good.
I tend to agree with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, Alois, and in truth, it would have been a little bit, it wouldn't have been poetic justice, put it that way, if the scoreline that stood in the 95th minute had obtained and been the final scoreline, with the Manchester United winning the game. I think 2-2 is decent enough, but in truth, I believe Southampton had done enough to win that match.
Yeah, but it wasn't the best of matches, to be honest, and Manchester United were not at their best, save for that best of moments of brilliance from those 2 guys who scored 2 glorious goals. I thought the goals were spectacular, 2 quick goals in 2 minutes. I think that was it for Manchester United. Otherwise, they didn't really come to the party, and some of the players looked tired and they looked jaded and frustrated. I don't know out of what, but like you say, I thought it was unfair for Southampton to lose that match, because I also thought that they had done well. They were unlucky to concede those 2 goals, to be honest, and 2-2, I think they can take that, and I think for Manchester United they can also take that 1 point, because they really didn't deserve to win, and 1 point they can actually take it and say this is 1 point gained rather than 2 points lost, because it helped to close the gap between themselves and Leicester and Chelsea as well. So I think Ole was right. They didn't play well and they didn't deserve to win, and 2-2, I think it was a fair result, if not unfair to Sheffield United actually.
I want us to talk about Southampton just now, but before we do that, I want to talk to you, Chris, about Manchester United. Solskjaer himself fielding the same starting 11 for a 5th consecutive game. And from what Alois is saying, some of the players look jaded, they look tired. And it's great when you can field the same lineup in consecutive games. It means that there's consistency. The team is solid. But when you are playing games almost every 3 days, it can catch up with you. And it looks like it caught up with Manchester United last night, didn't it?
I think it can catch up with you, and he was asked if is part of it exhaustion on the part of his players. Ole actually said no. I would say that it is part of what you just said, of playing every 3 days and playing the exact same team. What I think is happening is that Ole has found that this particular team works, and it's working in order to secure the points that he needs. So why change something that's working? However, what needs to happen is that he needs to have a system where some of the players, if you take a look at where Manchester United started slipping, I think from about 75, 80 minutes or so, Manchester United wasn't playing anymore. They were thereabouts, but they weren't playing with the same intensity as when they started that match. So he does need that boost off the bench in those sort of last minutes in order to just make sure that they seal up those points. Because conceding in the 96th minute, honestly, it's a bit embarrassing for Manchester United. And look, for Southampton, they deserved it because they continued playing right up into the last minute, which is where Manchester United lost it.
That's a beautiful segue for us to discuss Southampton, because Mike, we can talk and pick apart the performance by Manchester United, but I think that would be it would be wrong of us not to actually credit Southampton for the way that they set up. And Ralph Hasenhüttl, the coach of Southampton, has got a taste for these Manchester teams. He dispatched Manchester City 1-0, and now goes across to Old Trafford, and in parts, the Saints look like they own the place.
Yeah, absolutely, Barry. I think we've got to give credit to Southampton. They had more possession over the course of the match. They had more goal attempts. They had more shots on goal. They had more dangerous attacks than Manchester United. In fact, they launched more attacks over the course of the game than Manchester United. They also outpassed Manchester United by nearly 50 passes over the course of the game. So from a statistical point of view, Southampton were well in this match. But more than that, Barry, in terms of organization, we saw a very organized Southampton side. And this, I think, for Manchester United fans, is something that should be a reality check, that when they're going to come up against the better organized sides, this is what they should expect. They should expect that press that's going to come, not when they have reached the halfway line, because all the teams that they've played so far since the return of football are teams that have allowed Manchester United to really just get the ball, transition quite easily in terms of the defensive transition from their own half to sort of like the middle third. But you find out that what Southampton did was to say, you know what, we're not going to allow you to get the ball to Bruno Fernandes and Pogba easily. So the avenues to those players were cut off. It meant that Manchester United were tested. Technically, their defensive players were tested by the Southampton press. It meant that your Harry Maguires, your Wan-Bissakas, your Luke Shaws, your Lindelofs, and your De Gea's, their distribution had to be on point. And we saw exactly how Manchester United conceded the first goal. That press and the block on Pogba lost possession, and that turnover resulted in a goal. So you're going to get more of this from when you play your Liverpool, when you play your Manchester City, when you play the really good sides. This is how they play. So the intensity was upped, and I felt that Manchester United is going to have to find a way of getting Bruno Fernandes onto the ball, because he's their most creative player. He shows imagination when he's in possession. But the problem is, versus Southampton, he was not allowed the space that he had been accorded in the previous games. And we saw the same thing with Greenwood as well. It's one thing to break out as a player, but it's another thing to maintain that sort of form, because the more you carve out a reputation, the more teams start making plans specifically for you. And I thought yesterday Greenwood was absolutely poor. That he survived that long in the game, I think Ole was just hoping something would fall in his lap. But to be honest, he could have been hauled off in halftime because he had no influence at all on the game. So I think Ole's got to think through now about how does he play when he's up against sides that are organized and sides that are very fit and intense when they come to pressing and trying to disrupt the way Man United play.
Well, Ralph Hasenhüttl, the coach of Southampton, is referred to as the Klopp of the Alpine, as it were. And so he proved it last night with that high press against Manchester United. Alois, very quickly, this now means that it's a three-way battle for two positions in the Champions League, because we know City is going to be playing the Champions League. They've got second position nailed down. It's Chelsea, Leicester, or Manchester United. And you've got to think to yourself, it's not a disaster for United, because if you look at their run-in, they're probably playing the better sides, in inverted commas, where they're likely to get 3 points. They're playing Crystal Palace, West Ham, and then Leicester. If you look at Leicester themselves, they're playing Tottenham and Manchester United in their last two games, while Chelsea's playing Liverpool and Wolves in their last two games. They're playing Norwich tonight, of course, do Chelsea. So Manchester United is in a good position to possibly go all the way if the form book is to be believed.
Yeah, when you look at the fixtures, Barry, like you said, Manchester United are most likely, if they play according to their ability and form book, to win those two games before they face Leicester in the very last match of the season. So by that time, they might have sealed it, or else they still have a chance that they know that if we beat Leicester, we go in. It's actually the Manchester United, I think, of the three teams, they're actually in a much, much better position. They might be the third one out of the three, in third position, but I actually see it as actually they've got the best position. They're in the best position to qualify for top 4 out of the three teams.
But it's a lost opportunity, though, guys. Make no mistake about it. I think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer would have much preferred to have got all 3 points from last night's game and been in third place with destiny in their own hands. So we can sit here and debate about who's got the easier fixtures, but you're better off just having your fate in your own hands, knowing that, you know what, despite what the other teams do, we are going to qualify if we win our matches. Because what happens if Leicester win all their matches? And don't forget, Leicester are hosting Man United at in that final game of the season. That game is going to be key. Leicester have got players who have got, I think, better technical ability than Southampton. And so that game cannot be one that United fans can put 3 points on it that easily. It's away, it's on the road, and it's against a Leicester side that's got very good players.
Yeah, so it's going to be a bit of a tough one. Well, one of the teams... Absolute humdinger, and one of the teams competing for their Champions League spot is Chelsea. They're in action tonight against Norwich City. Tomorrow it's Burnley versus Wolves. Manchester City entertain Bournemouth, while Newcastle United take on Tottenham Hotspur, and the big game tomorrow is Arsenal versus Liverpool. On Thursday it's Everton versus Aston Villa, Leicester City versus Sheffield United, Crystal Palace entertain Manchester United, Southampton will take on Brighton in a South Coast derby, and then Friday, it's West Ham versus Watford.
We are in Spain, where Zinedine Zizou has described Eden Hazard's predicament at Real Madrid as complicated after leaving the Belgium international as an unused substitute during last night's 2-1 win at Granada. Early goals from Ferland Mendy and Karim Benzema set up a victory that moved Madrid to within touching distance of La Liga glory. Hazard arrived from Chelsea for €100 million before the start of the campaign, but injury struggles, most notably a broken ankle, have seen him play a minimal part this term. While the record in La Liga for Zinedine Zidane, Chris, is 9 out of 9 since the return of football. And to be fair, he doesn't really need to play Hazard if he doesn't have to. If he doesn't feel that Hazard is not 100% or there's risk of aggravating his injury, there is no need to play him because the team is winning games.
Definitely, and the team has multiple players like we've talked about who are contributing to goals, who are ensuring that Real Madrid maintain their place at the top of the log. So Zinedine Zidane is not under any pressure to play him at all, and it's going to take a bit of time, I think, to get that trust back as well, and also for him to heal that injury.
Good place that Real Madrid find themselves in. They host Villarreal on Thursday, knowing that victory for themselves or anything less than 3 points for Barcelona will see them crowned champions.
We head over to Italy for some news out of Serie A. Inter head coach Antonio Conte said he will not hesitate to leave the club if they are unhappy, although the Italian remains committed to the Nerazzurri project amid questions over his future. Conte joined Inter at the start of the season, but there have been reports the former Chelsea and Juventus boss could leave at the end of the 2019-20 campaign. Inter leapfrogged Lazio into second position in the table, 8 points behind leaders Juve with 6 games remaining following last night's rallying 3-1 win at home to Torino, and Conte was asked about his future. Mike, for you, in the current climate, letting go of Antonio Conte and possibly getting a replacement, is this an option that Inter even has if you take a look at the position that clubs are in at the moment?
Not unless they're going to go and get Gian Piero Gasperini from Atalanta. There are not many good coaches that are going around. So replacing managers is always a big problem because who do you replace them with? You can't get anyone much better than Antonio Conte at the moment. I'm with Alois that he's done quite a lot actually to restore Inter's pride and to turn Inter into a competitive unit, and they need to build on this because you can't expect Conte to go on and win the Scudetto in his first season. Let's see how he does next season if he adds 3 or 4 more new players to that outfit. They're already looking good. They play an exciting attacking brand of football. They just need to defend better. And if they can defend better, they'll be able to challenge more when it comes to the big titles in Italy.
Well, hopefully he does get that additional time that he needs to manage to pull the team together and manage to get the championship. Tonight, though, Atalanta takes on Brescia.
We'll wrap it up with news that Gary Neville has taken aim at financial fair play and UEFA after Manchester City's Champions League ban was overturned, saying FFP needed this slap around the face. The Pep Guardiola's side will play in the Champions League next season after the Court of Arbitration for Sport, the CAS, lifted the club's 2-year ban from European football. Neville has long been a critic of how FFP is implemented by UEFA and reiterated that message strongly.
UEFA can't get a simple disciplinary hearing right. We know that for years and years, and they're certainly not going to be able to get something right that's complex. I said it months ago. They're an organisation which I think ultimately is transitioning away from what it has been in the past, and this is I suppose in some ways a hangover from something that started a few years ago. But it is not surprising today that in a serious court that Manchester City have won this case, because UEFA are an organisation who simply can't organise their own disciplinary measures.
Mike, I know this is a hobby horse of yours, so Gary Neville well within his rights. I think FFP is in need of a big rubber, and we cross it all out and start again.
Yeah, to be honest, but I'm against FFP in the first place.
Altogether, yeah.
Well, what's wrong with money coming into football? What's wrong with it? This thinking that we need to handicap the chasing pack, for me, doesn't work for me, because if you are arguing that is to safeguard clubs from overspending and use examples of Blackburn Rovers and Leeds, come on. This is oil money we are talking about. These guys can buy the entire English Premier League and still have the majority of their money in their pockets. So Man City is not going to be broke. Man City is not going to be financially ruined, not with the level of investment, Barry, that they've put in the city of Manchester and, of course, in the surrounding areas in the county of Lancashire. They have transformed the landscape in Manchester. This is a club that's there to stay. And for me, more clubs of this nature should be encouraged. It just makes football more exciting and less predictable. Imagine if we've got 9-10 teams who are all punching at the level of Man City, United, Liverpool, Chelsea. It would mean that Champions League qualification is not guaranteed, that there's always excitement, subplots and plots throughout the season. Not the system where we know more or less that, you know what, the Champions League campaigners are these 6 clubs and no one else.
Yeah, Mike, even if they go broke, so what? They go broke and go. We still have clubs. Other clubs will come in. Let them play. Go broke and we get other clubs. Let's play.
Perhaps.
Leeds went down, did we die? Blackburn went down, did we die? We continue.
Perhaps the safety net that is required is to avoid the fact that there are those who are less scrupulous amongst us as a society who want to use it as an arbitrage opportunity, come in, cause this huge burden on a club and then leave without any consequence. Perhaps we just protect the clubs in that fashion, but I completely agree with you. I think that financial fair play needs to go, and GNEV is completely in agreement with us. Time always the enemy on the show. We are clean out of it. We gotta go. We'll catch you tomorrow. May God richly bless you. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Manande, out.
And it's Messi! It is the cleanest of clean finishes from the best on the planet.
The biggest sports stories.
Liverpool, the champions of Europe, are top of the world.
The biggest interviews.
That such a great spectacle is ruined by such thuggish behavior.
And all the analysis right here.
He's the one player that has the arrogance to think that he can play in any stadium in the world and any pitch in the world in front of any player in the world and take them on.
Every weekday, it's my sport, it's your sport. It's ZiFM Sport on ZiFM Stereo. My station, your station.